Good afternoon, guys. It's Workin bringing you a quick update on EOS. Hope you guys are having a wonderful afternoon. We're looking at EOS to the US dollar, 4-hour chart on Bitfinex, guys. And last time we spoke, I told you EOS was operating within this larger wedge, very similar to Bitcoin. In fact, the chart looks extremely similar to Bitcoin. Not only do we have this larger wedge where price is creating a series of of higher lows. You know, here we go, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low, etc. Obviously, we're creating lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. And as we get squeezed tighter and tighter, of course, we expect a breakout near the apex. Now, we not only have this larger wedge, we have this, again, just like Bitcoin, we have this ascending support line here, creating almost a secondary wedge within the wedge, if you will. And we are, again, just like Bitcoin, approaching the apex of that smaller wedge right in this area. And as we get there, guys, we would expect a larger move. Now, I don't expect a major impulsive move as if it was as I would if we were approaching the apex of this wedge right here. However, this is suggesting that, pardon me, guys, this is suggesting that price might end up moving very shortly. Now, what I'm watching here is, as I showed you guys many times in the past, going all the way back to actually going all the way back to August. Every time price is retraced, it's retraced to that 786 fib level. If we go swing high, swing low, and I know I've shown you guys, some of you guys have already seen this, but for those new viewers, we came up, price hit this 786 fib level, got a strong rejection back down. Okay, that's one. Number two, we got the same, price came back up, swing high, swing low. What do we have? Price came up, hit perfectly right here off that 786 fib level and broke down. So that's two. What do we have a third time? Go swing high, swing low. What do we have? Price came down, came back up. Let me zoom in here for you. What do we have? Again, a perfect hit right here off that 786 fib level. That's three times. That's a trend. Okay, what do we have? We go again, swing high, swing low. And we're going to swing low to this little wick. I know it's hard to see. This wick right here. Let me zoom in. Let me get swing high right on there. There we go. Swing high. Let me zoom in. What do we have? Price came down, came back up. Where did we hit? Again, perfectly right here off the 786. Now, we just recently, in the last 12 to 24, 12, something like that, 12 to 24 hours, 24, somewhere in there. It looks like about 24 hours ago, we hit perfectly off of that 786 fib. So again, you would expect, if history is any guide, you'd expect a larger breakdown. A much larger breakdown than what we've seen already. Now, we still may see that, but I've been surprised. I was expecting yesterday to watch this thing crash below this, the bottom of this support, the bottom of this 5.71 support area, and it didn't. It came back down, and the bulls were able to push it right back up. Pardon me. Now, if we look and see how far price retraced, let's go swing low, swing high. Well, let me get right on there. We came down, price hit perfectly off the 50. Now, I would expect it to retrace to at least the 618, and it might end up doing that, and that does coincide nicely with not only this order block here, but also with the ascending support line of that of this inner wedge here, if you will. So that is certainly not off the table. However, what I'm watching here, let me kind of zoom in here and look at our indicators. We can almost expect this breakdown, not only because it came up to the 786 fib level, but if I draw an arrow on price from point to point, this point to this point, what do we have? A slightly lower high, right? If I go from the same point to the same point on this RSI, what do we have? A slightly higher high. Okay, this was clearly in this portion, looking at this microstructure, this was in a downtrend. This would be hidden bearish divergence. So we would expect that breakdown, and that's exactly what we got. Now, this isn't such great divergence where I would expect a major breakdown on the RSI. However, when I look at the MACD on the 4-hour, again, same point to same point, it's much more extreme. This hidden bearish divergence was much more extreme, showing me that I would in fact expect a larger move. However, the bulls were able to push it right back up, bounced off the 50 and pushed it right back up into this zone. So that's very interesting. Let's see if it does end up continue down. But the making the case for the bulls, if I zoom in here to the 1-hour, what do I have? If I go point to point, this point to this point, again, we're looking at the 1 hour, looking at the smaller structure. Now, if I take into account these two little wicks here, and I'm going to take those into account to make the most conservative, my most conservative point, we're still creating a higher low. Now, a lot of people would cut that wick off and they point it right up into this area. And, I'd say that this really isn't much of a difference. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and take those wicks into account. We're still creating a lower, a higher low. If I look at the exact same point on the RSI, we created a much lower low. That is, and clearly this was in an uptrend. If we're looking at this microstructure, zooming in on the microstructure, this would be in an uptrend, and this would be considered hidden bullish divergence, and that's why we're seeing this this bounce here in this uptrend back into this 5.71 to 5.83 consolidation zone. And we also saw the exact same thing on the MACD. If I go point to point, created a lower low. Again, hidden bullish divergence in an uptrend. So that we saw that bounce. Now, is that bounce going to continue? This is only on the hourly, so take it for what it's worth. I just find it extremely interesting. Personally, my bias is that price is going to come back up, hit this zone up here, and break back down, possibly test this ascending support line, heading back down to that 618 fib level. Why do I say that? I say that because we can see that it's created this tiny little, almost a new supply zone right in here. Price came back down, came up, boom, rejection, came up, wick, boom, rejection, wick, boom, rejection, wick, boom. So there's a lot of sell orders that are clearly sitting up in this zone, and we can see that's also supported. If I come over here and I look at my volume profile, this is also supported. This is zone right here, right almost perfectly at the at 5.83, $5.83. That's where we can see the resistance is, and sure enough, we're seeing that over and over and over again. So I wouldn't be surprised. Price came up, hit that zone again, broke back down, testing this ascending support line of this wedge as it gets closer and closer to the apex. That being said, if it does come up and break through this zone, and retest this larger ascending support line here. Again, I would expect I would expect price to bounce off this larger ascending support, or excuse me, resistance line, the top of the wedge. I would expect price to come up, hit that the top of the wedge, and then break back down. If price does break above this zone and starts consolidating, moving sideways, and just kind of peeks its head out of this ascending support line or ascending resistance line at the top of the wedge here, that's going to be an extremely bullish sign. If we can get it to consolidate in this zone here, the top of which is about $6.14, that's going to be an extremely bullish sign, and I do believe that it'll at that point either will just impulse up, consolidate, and then eventually impulse up and come into this supply zone up here between 6.45 and 6.70. I do think there's just not a lot of resistance between 614 and 645 at all. To the downside, if it does end up breaking down, guys, as I said, I would expect it to come into this to test this ascending support line here. If it does break out at that point, we'd be approaching the apex. If it does end up breaking out, I'm going to be watching this zone right down here, sitting at about 5.57. Somewhere there, that's acted as a decent support and resistance many times in the past, so I would expect it to end up breaking down. This is the zone that I'd be watching for a possible reversal. If it does break below this zone, guys, I do think there's a very good chance we're going to come back down and test this 5.26, this area right here. There's just not a lot of support between 5.57 and 5.26. Now, we might find some support. We can see that prices come down here and wicked into it a few times. But I do think if it breaks out of this this ascending support line here and breaks below this 5.26, I do think it'll be a likely probability tells me it'll be a free fall down to about 5.26. 5.26 would be a decent area to ladder in buy orders if you are looking for an entry point. I would expect that will coincide nicely with the the larger ascending support line of that larger wedge. So that would be a logical place to expect a bounce. And again, as we get closer and closer to this apex of this larger wedge, we would expect a larger move, both up or down, a much more impulsive move, both up or down. If it does move up, guys, I'm going to be watching this 6.14. This is the zone that I need to break up. Pardon me. This is the zone that I'd be watching for a possible reversal, a possible bull trap. If it breaks above that zone, I think it'll be a quick rise to at least 6.45. If it does break down, I'm going to be watching this $4.96 range here. This is the area I would expect a possible reversal, although it may come as low as 4.73, 4.67. That's been a decent support zone as well many times in the past. But more than likely, I'd expect a reversal at 4.96 if it's going to be a bear trap. If it breaks below that, of course, I think it'll quickly test 4.73, possibly break down even lower than that if that does end up coming into play. Not saying it's going to happen, and we aren't there yet at all. I'm just giving you scenarios to watch out for as we go forward. Looking at our 4-hour chart, guys, looking at our moving averages and Bollinger Bands, we can see price came up, hit the top of the Bollinger Bands here, came back down, found support right off the 50-day moving average, a very bullish sign, and impulsed right back up, not impulsed, but bounced right off that 50-day moving average. If price stays above this 50-day moving average on the 4-hour chart, that's going to be a very bullish sign in my opinion. If it does break down below that 50-day moving average, that might be a signal that price is heading down to a much lower level. Looking on the daily, we can see that price ended up coming down, wicked well below the 21-day moving average, or excuse me, the 21-day EMA, I should say, bounced off the 50-day moving average, came right back up, and now we find itself finding support right on top of that 20-day EMA. Actually came back up, tested this 55-day EMA, back down, found support on the 21-day EMA, and now we're sitting somewhere in between the two. If price does end up breaking above this 55-day EMA, that's on the daily chart, that would be an extremely bullish sign. If price breaks below the 21-day EMA on the daily chart, extremely bearish sign, possibly signaling a trend reversal. As long as we stay above this 21-day EMA on the daily, that's going to be, then I will believe that the bulls do have hope, and this thing might end up turning around. We'll have to wait and see how it plays out. Looking at the shorts, they remain relatively unchanged, nothing significant there. Looking at long positions, we can see long positions have dropped off in the last week or so. A little uptick yesterday, today moving sideways, but again, nothing real significant. So nothing to tell, nothing that gives away market makers' hands as far as moving price in one direction or another. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it there, guys. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, please let me know in the comment section below. As always, we'll appreciate an upvote, resting, or a like. And until next time, guys, please trade safe. Take care of yourselves. This is Workin, signing out.